Show me the eyeball.
Today we are going to be doing discovery of an advanced civilization in the Antarctica. Boom, boom, boom.
Pyramids were the favorite architectural forms of these ancient builders. It seems apparent that they were created by the same advanced civilization. However, these temples are in totally different parts of the planet. This Chichen Itza complex is
This is what I like
located in
about
Mexico.
history, like
The
pyramids.
Pyramid of Djoser
Mad.
is in Egypt, and the Kokurs Sanctuary was discovered in Cambodia.
Yeah, but then
Textbooks will tell you that all these very
right at the beginning, he just said all these pyramids are from the same civilization.
Human.
It points all the way around. No, that's a species, not a civilization.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the pyramids are from all the same civilizations around the world. No, I don't buy that for a minute.
No, because there would have been
They
different.
just have similar cultures, which then creates similar architects, which then creates similar buildings. And they
Yeah, 'cause you
just so
think-
happen think, oh, a pyramid looks good.
Yeah.
Or a form of a pyramid.
Yeah, because you think if you're going to build something, you're not going to build a cube, are you? Because you can't climb to the top of it.
Yeah. And
So you
plus,
build a pyramid.
a square is like the easiest object to build.
Yeah.
And architects, any architect likes to create the most
Outlandish.
awkward shaped
Yeah.
objects of all
how
time.
they built them, though, in a lot of these remote places, that boggles the brain as to how they achieved it.
Yeah, but then there is countless amounts of theories on that one.
Yeah. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole.
That could be another video for the future.
Yeah.
similar step pyramids were built by different primitive societies independently of one another. But the weirdest thing is that these almost identical structures are separated by hundreds or even thousands of years and a distance of half the world. And if we assume that they were really created by representatives of the same ancient advanced civilization who could easily cross the oceans, that's the development level close to the 20th century.
I don't think they were doing
But then
that.
why is there no pyramids in Europe? You know, it's all them places that they just said there's pyramids.
There is. There is one in Romania. Yeah. Only recently discovered. They thought it was like a mountain of mud.
Yeah, right, okay. I was going to say,
But
I know there's
very-
like mounds
yeah.
and things like that, but as far as I was aware, there wasn't any pyramids in Europe. It
Yeah,
was always...
there is only pretty much one, and they didn't, up until recently, they didn't think it was, they didn't even know it was a pyramid.
Yeah.
Until somebody did like some ground scans, and they were like, oh, hang on.
That's why I'm saying it's based on
Yeah.
culture and architecture, because European culture clearly never thought, let's make a pyramid.
None in Australia,
No.
none in Siberia. Well, actually, we don't know.
Oh,
what's
and
in
plus, they
Siberia.
wouldn't have had access to the materials to make a pyramid,
No. No, because
because most of Europe is like clay and mud and dirt, and you get like
we got
iron.
we got a lot of stone, but it would have been colder, wouldn't it? If you notice, all those pyramids are in hot places, isn't they? Maybe they were just like
It's definitely a
that.
cultural and architectural thing.
Yeah.
Scientists have found even too many suspicious buildings, the appearance of which they can't fully explain, or don't even try.
That's a snake.
In the U.S. state of Ohio, there's such a strange human-made hill. It's
Oh, I
called
watched
the
a program
Great
on this
Serpent
the other
Mound.
day.
Experts
Yeah.
are still arguing about the age of the complex stretching for 440 meters.
I know, I see a
The
different one
generally
where there's
accepted version
mounds
states that the snake-shaped
in a line,
mound was
but like
built
miles
by
away.
representatives of the Fort Ancient culture around the year 1000 CE. Allegedly, there was just no one else who could do it. However, this version hasn't convinced
Hogwash.
everyone. British journalist Graham
Oh, I
Hancock
like
doubted
Graham
such
Hancock.
conclusions and decided to conduct an alternative study. Not far from the Serpent Mound, he came across a whole complex of ancient burials related to the Adena culture, which is 1,500 years older than Fort Ancient. But the most incredible thing is that the Serpent Mound apparently rests on the ridge of an ancient meteorite impact crater. The tested samples showed that this collision occurred no earlier than 125,000 years ago, leaving behind a powerful magnetic anomaly. Compass needles literally go wild in this area. Surveyors were able to accurately determine the cardinal points on the Serpent Mound only 100 years ago.
That does look
While
mad.
ancient people did
And the
it a
fact
couple
that it's got-
thousand years earlier without
It's got that magnetic anomaly.
Yeah.
That's pretty mad, isn't it? Well, obviously, an asteroid went there, and asteroids are metals, aren't they? Mostly, like once they hit,
Pretty
that,
much, yeah.
yeah. But still, that's mad.
special equipment, they managed to do even more. The head of the serpent aligns with the summer solstice sunset, and the curves of the mound serve as an astronomical calendar. And according to the conventional version, all this was built by people who could only build huts and sharpen spears for hunting. But
That's
what
pretty
if this
intelligent.
primitive society
Yeah, this is
just
why
occupied the
it
more
boggles
ancient
my brain as to why, like, modern us now seem to think older civilizations were so stupid.
Yeah.
Right?
When clearly this one,
Thousands of years ago, civilizations were building objects based on the sun's positioning or the stars' positionings, which means they had an understanding of mathematics.
Yeah, and this isn't like this thing they've just pointed out isn't even just the sun; it's the solstices. It's like a particular point.
Yeah, but most
Which is
major
mad.
civilizations, I've seen so many of these, most major civilizations
Had a way to track the
do it based
yeah.
on the summer solstices, like the
Yeah.
Stonehenge in the UK.
Yeah.
It's like
Which is even-
11,000 years old.
which is even more difficult to track because it's a specific point in a time frame. It's not like you're tracking the sun over 24 hours. It's
Yeah.
like
And then you get the
boom.
three king pyramids in Egypt that line up exactly with the stars.
Yeah,
Like this is thousands of years ago. This is like beginning of scientific and mathematical
yeah,
evolution.
mad.
complex built by
don't give
someone
them enough
else
credit,
much
basically.
earlier.
what I
Especially
was trying to say,
considering the
yeah.
fact that in another corner of the world, we found traces of an unknown ancient civilization with extraordinary construction skills. Scientists initially paid little attention to the half-ruined Göbekli Tepe temple complex in Turkey. The first studies showed that it was built only about 2,000 years ago. Göbekli Tepe would have remained interesting only to specialists if they hadn't discovered at least 16 more ancient underground halls.
This is what boggles my brain, right? With a lot of these ancient civilizations, is all of it's hidden under dirt. Like, why wasn't it kept above dirt by more recent civilizations?
Because most civilizations were wiped out by an enemy civilization that wanted power and took over their land and wasn't interested in their architecture.
Yeah,
So they've knocked it down, or natural disasters have just
taken over.
made it disappear.
Yeah, it's mad how much dirt has accumulated, though, isn't it?
Yeah, you think how much history over thousands of years have been wiped off the surface of the earth.
So
just,
much.
Just by
Yeah.
war and natural disasters. It's crazy.
Innovations. Hence, the total area of the complex could reach about 20 square kilometers, and that's only what we've managed to find. That's almost like half of Manhattan. The examination showed that the oldest of the halls
That was
date
2,000
back to
years
the
ago as
10th
well. How long
millennium
would that have
BC.
taken?
And
Yeah.
that's even before the emergence of any modern civilization. Scientists believe that in
Is
those
that like a
times,
giant emoji?
hunter-gatherer
Yeah, yeah.
That was like four smiley faces.
This goes back to what you said, though. Nobody gives these people enough credit. This is before even they perceived the first civilization.
on Earth. What could make them suddenly unite to build the monumental Göbekli Tepe? Science has no clear explanation for that. There's no way our ancestors could receive the group text that ushered in a new era for
Group text.
humankind.
Steve, Maybe they did. Maybe they did.
Giulio
It would have
Magni,
been a
professor at
natural
the Polytechnic
disaster.
University of Milan,
Yeah.
discovered that Göbekli Tepe was not a temple, but a real observatory.
Then they would have thought
That's
the
because
gods
the middle
have-
lines between the central monoliths of
Gods
the
do not-
complex coincide with the azimuths of Sirius during the summer
Gods
solstice.
do not approve, basically.
These unknown ancient people knew a lot about not only the technology of construction, but also astronomy. Then what could prevent them from traveling around the world?
I always get
Ancient
confused
maps
with astronomy
testify
and
in
astronomy.
favor of the version
Oh, yeah.
of an advanced ancient civilization that was actively exploring the globe. On the map of 1513, we can see Antarctica, but how did it get there if our seafarers discovered the fifth continent only 300 years
Oh,
later?
this is very true.
The ancient map has some more mysteries.
So
For
basically,
example,
there's
the coast
ancient maps, right?
Yeah.
That they've managed to recover that are
Yeah.
they can carbon date them, right? And this one is from 1513. The Antarctica wasn't discovered on a map until the 1800s. Why does this map from the 1500s clearly show Antarctica? Because somebody was travelling around.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now, there would have been civilizations that had found the Americas before we did.
Yeah.
Or
Did you know the Vikings?
Christopher bloody Columbus.
Did you know the
did.
Vikings got there before Columbus?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But because it's not
Documented.
documented, yeah, because there wasn't proof. It just means the current civilization takes the glory.
Yeah. Or the documentation was lost.
Yeah,
line of Antarctica, now hidden by the ice, is depicted with remarkable accuracy, as if someone knew what the continent looked like in the distant past. Modern science managed to study such details only in the 60s of the 20th century. But who could possibly beat us by hundreds or even thousands of years? Could it be the builders of a giant pyramid on Antarctica's surface? This is a fragment of a satellite image of the Ellsworth Mountains taken in 2016. Are these the remnants of the Antarctic metropolis of an ancient advanced civilization?
Debatable whether that's a pyramid or a mountain, isn't
Sailor
it? Unless you go there, you can't tell, can you?
yeah. From that image, from a directly above image, that does look like a pyramid. But when you get up close,
Does it still look like that?
yeah, like is it a lot more ragged, misshaped? Because they look like clean,
Lines.
like exact,
Like the
lines.
pyramids of Egypt,
Yeah,
isn't it?
exactly, like a pyramid should be.
Yeah.
But then this goes back to what we just said a minute ago about when you said about things.
Being
Why
lost.
don't they get? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Over time, how do they know how long the Antarctic has had
Ice.
that levels of ice and snow on it?
All they know is
Right.
the previous ice age.
Yeah, like there could have been civilizations 50,000 years ago that we don't ever know and will never know that ever
Yeah.
existed because it's completely covered.
Maybe the civilization that was there was wiped out by the ice.
Yeah, it's just like when they say
Yeah.
about the city of
Atlantis.
Atlantis. Yeah, it's underwater. Not everything was underwater.
No. Prior to the ice age, the sea levels were a lot lower.
Yeah, it's just like Europe. There's parts of Europe. The UK was connected to Europe
Yep.
at some point before nature decided no more.
Do you know what that landmass is called or was called?
Dogland.
Doggerland.
Yeah, Doggerland. Yeah.
Kiwi
Oh, yeah,
race
it's mad
claimed
what
that
now-
he
how
copied
much
a sample
history
from
nature
a very ancient document
has
from the
wiped off the
already
face of the
destroyed
planet.
Library
Yeah.
of Alexandria. And by
Oh,
the way,
yeah, the
this
Library
is
of
in the
Alexandria.
vicinity of the Great Pyramids of Giza. What if the ancient builders left detailed instructions for the descendants, which were subsequently lost? But there's more to come.
Okay, that really does look like a pyramid, doesn't it? With those, like you said,
Yeah,
those
that's what,
lines
yeah,
are pretty
yeah,
clean.
the exact lines.
Yeah. And look, when they've drawn it out, 2K, 2K,
Like,
2K,
for nature,
2K.
like, the chances of nature creating that is pretty much zero.
Yeah.
Like, nothing would be exact with nature.
Yeah. Another good point it brought up was the Library of Alexandria, which was supposedly contained so much knowledge, but then was just lost or stolen. Prior to that, you had the Babylonian Empire, which had the massive library that was ransacked. So we could have lost so much history and data
Oh, yeah, for
during
sure.
those just two periods.
The outlines of 16th century South America, still poorly studied back then, are also strikingly accurate on the same map. Mountains, rivers, and some lakes are even marked on the continent itself. That is, in ancient times, someone not only saw this piece of land from the sea, but also managed to get deep into the continent. However, on the map of Piri Reis, there are inconsistencies even with our current knowledge of the world. On it, South America is connected to Antarctica by a small isthmus. But wait, could it be that tens of thousands of years ago, in the days of an unknown ancient civilization, these continents were really connected?
Yes. Like you said,
After all,
lower.
in South America, we've also discovered many pyramids, and we keep finding new ones to this day. Quite recently, researchers scoured the area surrounding a village in southern Bolivia.
I'm surprised they haven't found a
scanner.
pyramid
And all of a
underwater
sudden,
yet.
under the jungle cover,
But then
they
this is the thing that
discovered a
boggles
complex
me.
network
Like,
of canals and the
they've explored space more than they have
The ocean.
the ocean.
Yeah. They know more about the human brain than we do the ocean.
Yeah, and you think how much history they could find under the ocean.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mad amounts. But there's some depths that they just cannot get to.
Just too far.
But then if they can spend billions and billions
Getting
getting
into
into space, how can they not spend
Billions.
getting to the bottom of the lowest ocean floor?
Yeah, exactly. Why can't we? What's down there?
remains of several stone pyramids. Archaeologists found out that they belonged to the previously unknown Kasarabe culture, 1,000 years older than the Aztecs and Incas. It seems as if someone specifically taught Native Americans
Hispanic.
complex architectural skills, and then they were adopted by later civilizations. However, geologists
could be their
strongly dispute
ancestors.
this theory about the pyramids in Antarctica. In their opinion, this is not the result of human activities,
See, that
but
doesn't
of
look like a
very
pyramid, does it?
specific erosion, as in the case of the famous
That just looks
Alpine
like a
Matterhorn
erosion
mountain.
Yeah.
But the debunking of only one pyramid does not change the fact that there are many ancient human-made monuments scattered around the world, and they're all suspiciously similar. Now, the ruins of the Gunung Padang Temple on one of the Indonesian islands no longer look so impressive. But in ancient times, it was a pyramid. Like the Great Serpent Mound, it also sits within an ancient crater. Scientists believe that the complex should be no older than 9,000 years. However, a recent radiocarbon analysis has shown that Gunung Padang's lower boundary date could push back the estimated date of construction by another 20,000 years.
Well, that's not a little bit
Scientists
wrong.
report that back then, Earth experienced the most severe phase of the last glacial period. That's why people were clearly not up to creating enormous memorial
Yeah,
complexes.
too cold.
But aren't we missing something important? Trying to fit Gunung Padang into our conventional history. The Ice Age is not as scary for an advanced civilization as it is for hunter-gatherers. These people could continue to travel the world constructing their pyramids. After all, they were found not only in Egypt, but in all corners of the world. This is the Prasat Bakse Cham Krong Temple in Cambodia.
mouthful, that one,
And
isn't it?
here's the Monte Dakoti Sanctuary in northwest Sardinia, Italy.
But I don't
All
buy
these
this.
buildings have
I don't buy this
striking
theory of him
similarities.
saying
the boulders of the
all these
construction in
pyramids stem
Argolis,
from the
Greece are
same
joined so
original
tightly that even a
civilization.
human hair
No,
can't
'cause
squeeze
some of
through
them
the
aren't-
joints.
Aren't as impressive as the others.
No, it's like I said, I think
Yeah.
it's more cultural and architectural, and humans may come to a similar conclusion or a decision.
Yeah, because if you had a pile of stones, and you started placing them, circular stones, and you started placing them on top of each other, it would naturally form a pyramid.
Yeah.
And all this is done without any fastening solutions. Near the city of Cusco in Peru, walls with similar masonry were found. Even though these regions are separated by over 11,000
Yeah, when you get things like that where the
Atlantic
form of the
Ocean.
masonry
Moreover, if we
is
look
similar,
at pyramid
that's where it's a bit
monuments
like,
in
what
Egypt,
the fuck?
Japan, and even on Easter Island, we'll see the same
Because
story.
if you're gonna
Even
have
the
similar
sculptures of
materials,
these complexes have
you're gonna end up coming up with similar
building techniques.
building techniques.
Some of them, though, he didn't go into enough detail there, from programs I've watched on certain ones of those, the techniques that they used in buildings, they've only just started using similar tech, like in the corners.
Yeah.
They've only just started using.
So don't get me wrong. There are going to be some of these some of these civilizations that are
way advanced.
the ancestors of the other civilization.
Yeah,
because they've travelled.
Yeah,
It's bound to happen.
yeah.
But he's saying at the beginning that every single
connected.
one of these pyramids stem from the same civilization.
Yeah, I don't think
can't
he's right.
buy that at all.
Especially if they said one of these was 2,000 years old,
Yeah.
and then that other one in Penang, Indonesia, was like 40,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Like you'd have
But
to.
it's
have
like
somebody who's
every
40.
major empire has travelled multiple continents. So
Look at-
you're going to bring
Yeah.
your culture and architecture with you.
And
So,
built madness structures. Rome, the
Yeah.
amphitheaters,
but to say
ancient Greek structures.
on a completely global scale that every pyramid, unless I misheard what he said, but I'm pretty
No, I
sure
think
that's
you're
what
right.
he said.
Yeah.
Facts from Bolivia, Turkey, Indonesia, and Easter
Bolivia.
Island, which can't possibly be reached without a well-developed fleet. Is it
that one's
entirely
got a
accidental
penis.
that the ancient
right?
Aztecs had a legend about a god
Well,
named
gender
Quetzalcoatl, who
identifying.
allegedly came
Yeah.
from across the sea in a boat that moved by itself without paddles? According to legends, it was Quetzalcoatl who taught people unprecedented skills, including the construction of pyramids. But here comes another
Time traveler.
strange coincidence. This image of superhumans passing on their knowledge is found
Why has he
not
got a
only in
super yacht?
Aztec culture. The ancient inhabitants of Mexico fixed this event into stone by depicting a person granting gifts of divine knowledge. It looks like an ordinary modern bag, doesn't it? But similar scenes of knowledge transmission by ancient sages are found all over the planet. They're discovered in the most hidden parts of Göbekli Tepe, on the walls of the preserved Assyrian temples, and even in Sumerian arts and crafts. But if we assume that representatives of an ancient
just got a
civilization
handbag.
could easily cross the oceans and bestow knowledge on primitive people, this would mean that their level of development was close to our 20th centuries. Could such a society disappear almost without a trace? In a recent article in Scientific Reports, American scientists announced the results of long-term excavations near the town of Tel El Hammam in Jordan. A 1.5-meter soil layer entirely consisting of burnt organic matter, ash, and bone fragments suddenly turned out to be the site of an ancient space disaster. Around 1650 BC, this settlement was
another
instantly
asteroid.
destroyed by an explosion of a previously unknown meteorite. Scientists scrambled to find at least some mention of such a cataclysm, but they found only biblical legends about the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah literally by fire from the sky. So I guess myths are sometimes not really fiction. And although such a disaster wouldn't have been enough to wipe out an entire civilization, there is an ancient legend about a global catastrophe, which may also prove to have some grounds. The myth
Giant
of the
tsunami.
Great Flood can be found not only in the Bible, but also in the tales of the indigenous peoples
Yeah, if
of
you take
America,
away the
and
fact
even
that
in
there's
the
a geezer
legends
who
of
put a load of
Australian
animals on a boat,
Aborigines.
there could have been
The
a
ancient
cataclysmic
Finns even
event like a
associated
giant
this
flood
event
globally.
with the
Oh,
end
yeah.
of the world. If the flood was really so global, even an advanced ancient civilization would be in trouble. And some data indicate that approximately 13 to 15,000
But then the difference is
years
back
ago,
then,
our Earth
I think
experienced
people were more focused on telling a great story and
Yeah.
like over exaggerating a scenario or
Yeah.
something like that.
100%.
Whereas where it's more science based now, it would
Yeah.
be told at a more logical
yeah,
level.
100%.
Like there wouldn't be someone saying that
Geezer built the biggest boat the world's ever seen by hand by himself.
yeah. Or
And not only that, he built it on top of a mountain.
yeah, like it's definitely over
Exaggeration.
fabricated or
Yeah.
over exaggerated.
100%.
There may stem some truth
Yeah,
in it.
yeah. It's dissecting what part is logically probably true.
the so-called cataclysmic period. It's like all the storms on our planet were raging simultaneously. But what could have
Yeah,
caused
because
it?
one natural disaster
Soil
can cause
samples of
another.
that period
Yeah.
contain numerous nanodiamond deposits. These are microscopic crystals that are
Same
formed
thing
as a
with like
result of the
hurricanes
powerful
and
impacts of
hurricanes and
comets or
tidal waves
asteroids.
tied in with each other.
But if the flood
Yeah.
was caused by the impact, where's the vortex? Richard Firestone, an analytical chemist at the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory in California, found that most nanodiamonds are found in soil samples from North
Most
America.
volcanic eruptions
But
then
back
cause
then,
earthquakes.
the entire territory of modern
mudslides.
Canada was covered with a thick ice crust. And if the comet hit it, the instantaneous melting of a tremendous amount of ice could create a devastating wave and, as a result, cause a global
It would only
flood.
take one, wouldn't it?
However, it's not a sure fact that it could destroy an entire civilization at once. The few survivors could theoretically settle in different parts
And then
of
that
the
could be
planet
like the
to
deepest
try to
depths of the
revive
ocean that we
former
can't reach at the
greatness,
moment could
and
be
at
a
the same
crater
time, transfer
of
fragments of their knowledge
an
to
asteroid.
other
Yeah, to
more
prove this
primitive
theory.
civilizations. It's amazing, but judging by the dating, the survivors of the secret apocalypse could be the ones who built Göbekli Tepe. In the
Because there
meantime,
would have
the
been
rest of
some
humanity
people from
was
that time
hunting
period
and
that were up
gathering,
on
as
super
they
high
already had the necessary
things and
technology
got
and
lucky.
knew how to
Yeah.
cooperate well. But if such a monumental building was erected by people exhausted by disasters, what were they really capable of at the peak of their glory? And if they possessed high technology, why didn't we find it? Although we consider ourselves a
in the
rather
ocean.
advanced civilization, which certainly left its bright mark on the planet's history, in reality, we can greatly overestimate ourselves. If our civilization disappears right now, in 200 years, there won't be any traces of human-cultivated plants left on the planet. In 10,000 years, cities will almost completely disappear.
This is exactly what I was saying the other week, wasn't it? Like, if there was an advanced civilization, you could go back, let's say, 200,000 years. There would be no trace. It would be near impossible to find.
Yeah.
Because time destroys everything.
Even if, right, you were ancestors of that old civilization, but there was no like documentation of how they built things or whatever, blah blah blah, or their culture, right? Because you're ancestors of that civilization, surely you would naturally develop the same culture
Yeah.
and architecture, even without previous like
Yeah. It's like if say the
Documented
entire world
proof.
was wiped out and there was only me and you left. We don't have the like architectural prowess to build things, but we could certainly give it a try and we would build it in our image of our previous civilization. So like say we wanted to build a pyramid.
Yeah, because in some way it would be imprinted into your DNA.
Yeah, from memory. We wouldn't know
Well, no,
exactly.
it wouldn't be from memory because you wouldn't fucking.
No, like the image of it. So like me and you could build a pyramid because we've seen a pyramid. And we'd be like, oh, that's the most easiest thing for us to build. Because otherwise...
No, but he's saying from like 200,000, say like 200,000 years ago. That's what you just said.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah. Like if a civilization existed advanced 200,000 years ago and they were wiped off the face of the planet,
Yeah.
there could still be ancestors of that civilization 100,000 years
Yeah.
later that have no documentation or imagery or anything of the way their ancestors built things,
No.
but could still develop naturally the same culture and the same
Yeah.
architecture.
Yeah. No, I
Just
get what
because
you're
it's
saying.
like genetically imprinted in them.
Yeah. And if you think about it, if you try and build a structure vertically, it will fall over unless you dig holes, which is labour intensive, right?
Mm.
Now, if you had stones and you just laid them out and started stacking them, you don't need to dig a hole. So it's like trying to think of the most logical way to build something, isn't it? Although what they did is not
Yeah.
logical because you would never build anything that high.
Because then you don't need a foundation for the
No,
building.
the base
because
is
you're
the found-
building the foundation.
Yeah.
Large stones randomly scattered around the globe. And we've just found something similar. The Bimini Underwater Road near the Bahamas is referred to as the Road to Atlantis. It consists of 700 meters of neatly laid out limestone blocks. The true origin of the structure is still disputed.
Right.
There's no single plausible explanation among scientists. But where could this enormous road lead?
Yeah, why would you
Could
build
it
a
be that
road?
in earlier times, before the Great Flood,
It was a
the
bridge.
ocean level was
Yeah.
significantly lower, and the ancient civilization surrounded almost the entire planet with such highways?
That's limestone as well. That's
That doesn't
big,
sound
big,
crazy at all,
chunky.
given that
Yeah.
it would be easy
Well,
to get
the
to most
rock-
other
rock-
continents
Bro.
from Antarctica, which hadn't
Maybe they
been
were trying
covered
to
with
connect
ice yet,
the
just
landmass
like it's
with the bridge.
indicated on the ancient map. Maybe one day we'll find the ruins of entire metropolises under the ice. But if an unknown ancient civilization was so advanced, there is one problem. If we disappear, the glass and plastic from our buildings and machines will be decomposing for about 15 million years. And after only a few tens of thousands of years, we would have definitely found similar traces of the previous
Yeah, but
civilization.
what if they didn't use metal or plastic?
Not. The
Well, they
source
didn't
of
have
all our
metallurgy
plastic is crude oil.
back then.
Ancient
Yeah.
people could either have failed to find
No,
it
they
at
had
all or
stonemasonry
considered
and
it
things
useless.
like that. And they didn't have
It's also possible that
metalwork.
they managed
Plastic,
to
you
predict
have
the
to dig
harmful
up an oil
effect of
well, didn't you?
synthetic materials on the
I don't
planet
know.
and
That's-
just abandon their production. In other words, such a civilization could be completely organic and therefore leave no trace. But the development level is determined not so much by technology as by the structure of society. And if the ancient
Ta-da!
sages didn't
Yep.
use plastics as we do, they
Exactly
could
what I
find
said.
alternative ways to organize their civilization.
Cultural
Despite our
and
prejudices,
architecture.
ancient societies might not necessarily be primitive. This conclusion was reached by the American anthropologist David Graeber, who studied various alternative structures of ancient
I'm just your
human
average
societies.
geezer, mate. And
For
that's the
example, in
bloody...
early stages
You're
of
in the wrong
development
field.
of our
That's the
civilization,
assumption that I'll
there
come
could
up
be
with, and I have
tribes with
no
constant
background knowledge of
cyclical
any of this.
change of roles. Once every few months, slaves
logical.
became chieftains and vice versa. In doing so, they could change not only personal belongings, but even names. After a while, everything was back to normal. Also, in his book, The Dawn of Everything, he describes the primitive tribes which consisted only of eccentric people who deliberately didn't observe any hierarchies. Perhaps similar, insane principles of social organization helped an unknown ancient civilization to find alternative ways of development.
Yeah, 'cause if you
and
think about
develop
it-
much faster.
In ancient times, was there any taxation system? Probably not. You
Was there
literally-
even a currency?
Yeah, you pretty much.
I don't know
lived,
when
eat-
actual like money was created.
No.
Because you would have traded in like resources. and
Yeah, it would have been like a barter system.
Yeah.
Like you give me that, I'll give you this sort of jazz. So yeah, their civilizations would have acted and reacted totally different than we do in modern society. Because you would have had, like, what jobs would you have had then? Sheep herder, animal butcher, seller of goods, metalist, iron mason, stonemason, labourer. Not many jobs you could have done.
Even on the basis of technologies that seem organic and imperceptible to us today. Simply put, the issue may not be that a highly developed ancient civilization is so invisible. It's just that it's very difficult for us to see it with our prejudices. But one day, we may rise above them
Yeah,
and find all the
this is what I
missing
said.
pieces
Yeah.
of the
Give
mosaic
past
of an
enough
ancient unknown
credit.
civilization that has only left us hints. However, ancient people might not be all that different from us in some things. The Indian epic Mahabharata describes an explosion as bright as 10,000 suns, after which a huge column of smoke and fire arose, and the birds fell dead to the ground. That sounds suspiciously like a nuclear explosion, doesn't it? I can't even imagine what it could look like. Do you think an advanced ancient civilization really existed?
It depends what you class as advanced at the time, yes. But it's primitive to us now.
Yeah.
But obviously we created... Well, once electricity was
Yeah.
invented, it boosted the evolution of the human race tenfold.
And the combustion engine.
Yeah. But then you go back to like well before then, without taming horses,
Yeah.
human civilizations wouldn't have advanced the way they did because it made travel a lot faster.
The invention of the wheel.
Yeah. That's what boggles me, right? Is because we've known to nurture or to harness the power from nature, right? The sun, water,
Yeah.
things like that. Right?
Wind.
So how did it take us so long to develop electrical power? It boggles my brain because it's literally been sat there staring you in the face.
Yeah.
But they've water creates with dams. It creates electricity.
Yeah.
Obviously, solar power is done by the sun.
Yeah, that you probably would have needed modern technology to even comprehend that. But wind is the
because
same as
solar.
yeah, but you need a way to capture the sunlight and put it in a battery. Like if you're talking like pre-1990,
Yeah, I suppose. I was like, yeah, but yeah.
a lot of the chemicals didn't even exist for solar then.
No, but there must have been like a more simple version of solar power.
Oh, it could have been. I remember the first solar was crap though.
But even if you take solar power out, water,
Wind.
like harnessing the power of water and wind.
Yeah.
How did it take us so long? Like
Yeah,
thousands and thousands of years to realise electricity is there,
Yes.
staring us in the face.
It's mad.
You think how advanced technologically we would be now if we invented electricity or discovered electricity?
Even 100, even 10 years before we did.
That'd be mad.
Do you know what I've just realised about that video? It barely touched on the actual Antarctica.
Yeah.
It
literally mentioned it at the beginning, showing a pyramid poking through the snow.
That was it.
Other than that,
So
there's still an interesting video.
yeah, interesting video. Sorry guys, we didn't really go into the topic.
Do you agree with the guy or not? Because I don't.
Carl hates
On
it.
his basis that every single pyramid that exists on Earth is
built by the same
created by the
person.
same civilization. No, it's not possible.
No,
I believe that it is just natural, cultural, and architectural and society.
yeah, like it said in that one part.
Yeah.
So
I hope you guys enjoyed. I did. That was very
I like that one.
informative.
And we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Toodle pip.